All right, joining us now, NBA writer Mark Medina. Medina.
Yep.
I got it right the first time. Yes. So how was Vegas, man?
It was fun. I mean, it was hot, but thankfully, one, I kept my money this time because I stayed away from the tables. But secondly, it was just fun seeing the atmosphere, most obviously with Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Scoot Henderson lived up to it. So, yeah, the atmosphere was good, and I am of the camp that you are in, that Victor Wembanyama is the real deal. The sluggish debut doesn't mean anything. He's going to be a special player.
Yeah. So you wrote a big piece for the Sporting Tribune about what's Vegas is just popping right now with the NBA. They're going to have a team there, I guess, in a few years. Adam Silver hasn't confirmed it, but essentially has confirmed it.
Yeah, Adam Silver was talking at a convention earlier this week where he said that there's a bigger priority with like the TV rights deal that expires after the 2024-25 season. But when I talk to people, in Vegas, it felt like it wasn't a matter of when, but if. And so with that, I wouldn't expect anything imminent because there are a few things. The TV rights deal, they have to figure out, okay, will there be another team that is expanded? How do they handle the whole revenue sharing? Is it a new arena, an existing arena? If it's a new arena, is it publicly owned, privately financed? But those things will eventually clear. So we don't know when it will happen, but it will definitely happen. It's been a haven for hoops.
I mean, they got the Golden Knights. They got the NFL team moved there. There's another team the Oakland A's are supposed to be moving to Vegas.
The Aces.
And WNBA, the
WNBA
defending champions, yeah.
So the NBA is going to be the last one there, I guess, right?
Yeah, and look, through the NBA space, they already have had some, roots down there. I mean, Summer League's been there since 2004. They have exhibition games, most notably with the Lakers. They have this inaugural NBA Con event. It's kind of like the Comic-Con for NBA fans. They got the In-Season Tournament. I know there's mixed feelings about it, but they're going to have the semifinals championship game there. So, yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, quickly on the In-Season Tournament, I think it's fine. I'm palatable. Is it the people online who don't like it? They are already NBA haters, and they were going to hate whatever the NBA is proposing. Like, what's wrong with making an in-season tournament spice up the league a little bit?
Well, look, I think it's wait and see, but the NBA, they coordinated with players, teams, they consulted, they gave feedback. I think that there is some skepticism of, is it actually going to address the regular season problems with just how much lack of importance or decreased importance it's been placed on. Now, in fairness to the NBA, they said that they've been brainstorming this idea like 15 years ago. So this predates load management issues, but I think that there could be this division of like young up-and-coming teams that care about it versus teams that are in that championship mix that are like, you know what, no thanks to the Gold Cup, right? But to placate some of that, outside of the semifinals championship game, those games are going to count in the stand-ins for the regular season. But I don't know if it'll fully address regular season complacency, but at least add something, to the NBA calendar that gets people to tune. And the last thing on this, Jason, some people push back, well, why have it in December or November? That's when NFL college football season is going on. That's fair, but the thought process of why having it then as opposed to later in the season is there was a fear that it would take away the momentum of All-Star Weekend and as well as kind of like the build-up when players are trying to tout their candidacy.
I think they picked a weekend between the conference championships for college football and bowl season, so it's like going to be fine. But one thing I liked, I don't know who floated this, but the idea of what if the winner of this in-season tournament got like an extra draft pick, whether it was like after the lottery or at the end of the first round, would that incentivize teams to make, like, if you're the owner of the team or the front office, you want to now try to win the thing. You're getting an extra, the 16th pick or the 31st, whatever it is. Like, there would be more incentive, but I don't know. I guess it didn't gain any traction.
That could work from a franchise standpoint. Look, there's cash incentives for, the championship winner and loser, semifinal, quarterfinal, but that's
so much money.
It's not as much. It might mean something for the rookie guys, but for the
like
star
the
players,
12th guy, minimum guy.
Yeah, the star players. I do wonder in future in-season tournaments, what if the games are weighted? They say that outside of the semifinal championship games, the other games count as regular season games. But what if, that win is considered more valuable in the standings than the quote-unquote normal regular season games? Maybe that addresses it more. But look, I think the bottom line is how it plays out in real time crystallizes it. I know that there was skepticism post-bubble about resuming the play-in tournament during normal seasons. But once teams found out, like the Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks, hey, this is our pathway to get in the playoffs, all of a sudden they liked that over the traditional 82 game.
Don't you think that's historical? Like any people are so resistant to any kind of change. And then after just a little bit of experience, oh, this is not that bad. You know, I kind of dig it. For instance, I think a lot of people are nervous that LeBron is near the end of his career. Steph Curry's 35. Kevin Durant's getting old and injured. Like, it's almost not equivalent to, but like the end of Brady and Manning. Remember, people were so concerned about the NFL. Well, here we are, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. Like, not a problem at all. Who do you think in that next group? Because we've seen Zion teetering, Ja Morant issues. Who do you think has that next? Is it international players, or are there any American players that jump out like having next here in the next few years?
Well, look, we're talking about in the now and in the future. I mean, Nikola Jokic won the championship, right? And he's in his prime. So, but I think the spirit of your question of like who is the next young star, it is Ja Morant, but it's about, okay, is he going to finally learn his lessons now that he's opening the season with a lengthy suspension? Is he going to change his behavior? But from a talent standpoint and production standpoint, he has been the guy. And I think that's what's made this whole situation disappointing. He clearly was on that pathway of becoming the face of the league. He still can become the face of the league, but he's obviously got to clean some things up.
Yeah, I don't non-shooting guard, but
and look, Victor Wembanyama, like that's the guy.
Yes, that's the guy. Yeah, but it's interesting. You mentioned Jokic, you mentioned Wembanyama, and I saw this video Will Barton on a podcast talking about how Carmelo Anthony, for me, he's one of the 15 best guys ever. And I kind of went on a rant earlier, like I feel like that's what's wrong right now with American basketball and why the international guys are coming in and dominating. It's like Carmelo, to me, not a winning player. He's all about Carmelo and scoring and offensive, and that's great. But he got out of the first round twice in his career, Mark.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Where are you on, like, what's going on right now with the American NBA basketball player?
Well, specifically with Carmelo, look, Syracuse guy, so I love him.
Yes,
but when we're talking about one of the best players of all time, no, he's one of the best scorers of all time. And while maybe he doesn't deserve all the blame for things not working out in Denver, New York, Oklahoma City, look, he adjusted his game much later than when it was asked of him to do. And so while he did kind of leave on a happier note than when Houston waived him, the fact that he wasn't fully adapting to the modern NBA caught up to him. But yeah, no doubt, he's one of the best scorers. I would argue, even though LeBron is number one of this generation, he's the best scorer, but he's not one of the best players of all time. Certainly deserves that top 75 distinction, top 50. But when you're talking about top 15, top 10, I think that's a stretch. But to your broader question about American players, international players, it's not necessarily anything new, but I think that what we've seen is clearly not only is there an infusion of international growth of players, but they're star players, they're franchise-changing players, and it's just a much different culture where it's team-oriented, it's fundamentally sound, where American, it's more individual and talent-based and what's in it for me. And look, you can be successful a lot of times, but there's been a lot of turbulence because they don't have that tough coaching and adherence to fundamentals as some of the international stars have.
We talked about it this week. Chris Paul was asked by some reporters, I don't know if you were in the scrum there, but about coming off the bench, and he goes, "You coaching?" and now there's a report from, I think, The Athletic saying he wants to be in the starting lineup with Curry and Clay. I mean, Mark, the Warriors starting five last year when they played together had the best net rating in the league of any starting five group. This Chris Paul thing doesn't seem to be off to a great start.
It's not off to a great start, but I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt that this is more of optics and the fact that Chris Paul is a competitor. I do have my questions about his durability and his health because, even though he's doing all the right things, just father time's crept up on him at the worst possible moments the past two postseasons. But I think from an X's and O's standpoint, will Chris Paul have some frustrations with a reduced role? Yes. Will there be some competitive tension-filled moments? Sure. I mean, Chris Paul is a demanding player, so is Draymond Green. But I think from an X's and O's standpoint, one of the underrated things about Chris Paul is that he adjusts pretty well as far as playing with other guys, X's and O's, not personality,
Okay,
X's and O's.
all right.
And I think that they have the temerity with Steph, Clay, and Draymond to make that work, even though he's had some struggles, late in the season recently with his outside shooting. He has adjusted moving on and off the ball. He is an efficient scorer. He is fine with passing. So I think from that standpoint, it can work. But I do have questions about the health standpoint. And while there might be some frustrating moments, I think that it's less concerning if it came from the guys of, someone who's more obsessed about his numbers than winning. So, yeah, but we'll see. There's a lot of moving parts.
We're looking deep into the future on the last question here. Two-parter. What franchise does Joel Embiid play for next? And what franchise does Giannis play for next? Assuming you think either of them would leave, Embiid, we'll see how happy he is with what happens with Harden. And then Giannis, of course, aging core. He's got his extension. I think he's eligible in like September. Your thoughts on Embiid and Giannis, who probably are the next two big stars to move, unless you think Karl Anthony Towns is in that category.
Yeah, well, look, Jace, under the guys that the NBA is always fluid, always unpredictable. Yes. I think Giannis stays with Milwaukee. I think that they're going to be a much better team this upcoming season. They were able to retain.
Better than the number one seed?
Better than last season's first-round flameout. Yeah. But look, they retained Chris Middleton. They retained Brook Lopez. They added his brother. They have a new coach, Adrian Griffin, that Giannis is a fan of. So I think that he is going to be there long-term. Now, Joel Embiid, that remains to be seen. But I do think I wouldn't rule out that next season, not only is Joel Embiid there, but I could also see James Harden being there. Because just because he's asked out doesn't mean that Daryl Morey is necessarily going to make the trade just for the sake of it. And he has had a track record of being comfortable with the awkwardness. Ben Simmons, for example, he waited until the trade deadline, until he found a deal, ironically, for James Harden. I wouldn't be surprised that because Daryl Morey's standard is so high of, look, I view our roster being championship contending worthy, that because of that baseline, he's not going to find a deal that he wants. Therefore, he's going to say, you know what, James Harden under contract, and we'll keep you next season.
I love optimistic Mark. So positive about Chris
More
Paul.
Reasonable Mark.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Mark Medina.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.